Did I bully the newbie? Am I the asshole?
Welcome to the Twisted Pint Tavern. Today we've got Loot Goblin back to check out some D&D Am I the Asshole moments, so buckle up, it's gonna be a fun one.
Hey, thanks for having me back to the Twisted Pint Tavern. I always like stopping by.
We're also doing a similar video that's gonna go up on Loot Goblin's channel, so when you're done watching this one, make sure to go check out his video with the link in the description or by clicking the card at the end of the video. Anyway, let's get into the stories. Wizard complains about being targeted. Am I the asshole? Simply put, a wizard in my campaign decided to be an evocation wizard so they could sling spells everywhere and not nuke the party. No big deal, I thought. Then he started using fireball in literally every single situation. Talking to an important but powerful NPC? I don't like his attitude. I want to cast fireball. Merchant won't give away items. I'm gonna steal it. I cast fireball centered on the merchant. Group of enemies? Guessed it, fireball. But oh shit, half them survived and decide to all attack the wizard who just nuked their platoon? That's targeting! Why are all the range guys shooting me? Sleeping Hydra, though one head is awake because Hydra, casts fireball before anyone can stop them. Why is the Hydra ignoring the others and charging me? Because they didn't attack nor entered combat. There is blood and gore in the hallway and the rogue says there are traps. Duh. Fireball casted and walks forward. Shocked the traps triggered by pressure plates go off anyway. No way, I burned all the triggers. Giant unknown crystal golem just standing in a room and not moving. Fireball. Golem shoots back a lightning bolt from its head. Why did it attack me? Technically, yes, I'm targeting the wizard because he's attacking everyone with obvious and flashy attacks. But am I an asshole for it? Honestly, the other players told me I should kill him off. I would, but the cleric heals him, as his character is like that even though the player wants to fucking kick the wizard's ass IRL.
Yeah, right off the bat, I can understand the frustration that the Dungeon Master has here. This guy has seen, the memes online about casting fireball, and he's just living out that class fantasy non-stop. A few of these are great, a group of enemies, he's gonna cast a fireball into it, totally makes sense, but then him complaining about being targeted in turn is super weird. When you start a 5v1 and 5 people fire back, you can't be mad that there's 5 arrows. That's not targeting, they just all have bows,
This person clearly just doesn't have that ability to understand, hey, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and this is what happened as a result.
Yeah, this guy quite literally can't take back what he's dishing out, and it is super weird. One shout out just to the story. I think a sleeping Hydra with one head on watch is super funny, just in general as a concept. I might have to steal that.
Especially if it's always the same head, so the other heads are all completely normal, but then there's just this one really sleep-deprived, groggy head that has disadvantage on all of its attacks. I think that would be hilarious.
No, that would definitely be great. And there's a few ones in here where the wizard, he's not being just a wizard, he's being a murder hobo, right? Firing at the merchant.
Well, and the cleric always healing him because that's his character, even though the player wants him out. I get not bringing the out-of-game stuff into the game, but even in that moment, I feel like if I was playing a cleric and there was a wizard doing that stuff in the group, I'd be like, look, dude, you have murdered countless people that didn't deserve it, and you're always running in getting us in trouble in combats by blasting them first. At this point, I think you're just baggage, and just not heal them. Let the problem resolve itself that way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in this story can be the asshole here besides the wizard. So the fact that the Dungeon Master's even asking, I always think it's a good sign when a Dungeon Master seeks a second opinion, even when it seems like it should be obvious that they're in the right, just because it shows a sign that they're always willing to change and grow. This player probably would not be making the same post.
Yeah, and then in the edits after this post, he also mentions that they've talked to the players several times about this, and their response was the it's what my character would do. And they're bringing that in, it's what my character would do, then again, going back to the cleric, my character wouldn't heal you then. Sorry, bud, you're not the kind of person that my cleric wants to adventure with. Yeah, so I think my rating is not the asshole. I mean, the DM is trying to tell the wizard that his actions have consequences. The wizard isn't picking up on it. And yeah, if you are wearing bright mage robes and you walk into a room and you cast a fireball centered on the room, it doesn't matter that you have other people with you in your party. You are going to be the #1 priority to take down because they don't want you to nuke them again.
Yeah, no, exactly. Am I the asshole for telling the newbie wizard to not AoE the party? So we're a group of really old friends that has never played a campaign together, but we all, except for one, have many years of experience playing. Our one new player does really well, but is falling into some new player trappings. More on that in a moment. We started the House of Lament a couple of weeks ago, and we just hit level 2. Our Dungeon Master tosses us into an encounter with 5 Grumiskas right after a long rest, and our newbie wizard figures out pretty fast that spells are bad. Excellent. The fight doesn't go so well, however, as we are missing almost everything, and the Grums are hitting everything, including a crit that one-shots our bard, we are frustrated and tensions are rising. I acknowledge here that I got a bit frustrated, so you can assume I probably had a frustrated tone of voice, even if I was trying not to. I'm a grave cleric, so our bard going down isn't the end of the world, but our newbie wizard declares on his turn that he's going to cast Sleep right in the middle of the fray, which would have targeted 3 Grems and 3 PCs, including our barbarian. Me and another player spoke up and asked him not to do that. I think I said something to the effect of, "This is the kind of shit that leads to an idiotic TPK. Do what you want, but please don't cast AoE spells on the party." He didn't cast it, and we went on to clean up the fight after our DM decided to have mercy on us. Afterwards, the players sent a group text saying that they don't like how we jumped on Newbie for trying to cast Sleep, that we should have let him do it, and that it might have worked out. Me, tired, frustrated, responded basically, "Sorry I was a jerk about it, but seriously, don't do that shit." And the newbie responded, "I get it, sorry guys. Did I bully the newbie? Am I the asshole?"
So the first thing I want to address is the fact that a new player wanting to cast Sleep in the middle of everything, which would target 3 out of 5 enemies and then 3 PCs, is definitely not the ideal. But if you've already got people down, and let's say you've got 5 players in the party and 3 of them, including one that's already down, would be technically affected by Sleep, and then 2 of them wouldn't be, and it turns it into a 2v2, that could actually be a really tactical thing to do, because if it's a 5v4 or turning into a 5v3, but you can make it a 2v2 and take those guys out, that could actually lead to a success instead of a TPK. But coming from a new player, their thought might not have been along those lines. It probably was just not really understanding how Sleep works.
Yeah, I think the logic definitely plays a big role in here, and it seems like, to your point, one of the players even mentioned that, hey, it could have worked out. So even he thought maybe there was a window where that was more tactical than it was just accidental, casting it in that area specifically. I'm kind of curious how the writer here worded other things. It seemed like the line he included for dialogue was pretty tame, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little abrasive, especially for a new player, but again, this is a group of old friends, they said, so if he talks like this, not excusing aggressive talk, but you talk differently with your friends than you do people that you don't know that well, so he may have come across abrasive, but it could have also just been par for the course for these guys. It's hard to know.
I definitely took it more as it was blunt coming from a friend, because obviously if he was on Roll20 or something, and he's like, "Hey idiot, you're gonna get us all killed," that's really different than even this. And sure, this is still a harsh tone, but for old friends, I mean, this is very mild, I want to say, kind of to your point.
And overall, I think his concerns are valid. I think he probably could have handled it better, but as he said, it'd been a while so far in the game. People were getting tired and frustrated. Things happen, and the fact that he recognized that he was a jerk about it, but still pressed to not do it. Again, it comes down to how he said it, what their relationship is. But they do actually have an edit, too, of a screenshot from the gaming group chat, and it's the morning after where he's slept through it and kind of realizing that his delivery wasn't great. It was a lot more in the direction of frustration than helpfulness, and he was apologizing to the player. And he basically says he should have let him do it, because even if it leads to a TPK, that's part of what the game's about.
Yeah, and I think that edit really shines a good light on it too. It's as simple as, hey, these guys are old friends. If something's gray, they just reach out and say, hey, was that too far? Was that kind of fine? And it seems like most of them responded, yeah, we were frustrated. Things are okay. We'll just, we'll blame the DM for making the encounter too hard. Haha. Yeah. And they kind of move on. So it really does seem like it was more the person here posted because he just wanted to make sure he didn't go too far.
Yeah, I don't think this guy with his intentions was the asshole. I think he went about it probably the wrong way, but in an understanding way. So I'm going to say 50-50 if he's the asshole or not, but I don't think he actually is like a bad guy who went into this with the intention to hurt somebody's feelings. I think it was just everyone was overwhelmed, they wanted to get through it, and he didn't want it to turn into a TPK. So it's to me a solid 50-50.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with the 50-50 for if he's the asshole. The truth is, did he lose his temper? Definitely. Is he the asshole? Maybe.
Am I the asshole for basically killing my party member? So we have this campaign including 5 players plus a DM, which we've been playing for around 5 months. For most of us, it's our first campaign ever, and we still have our original characters. Well, until today. A few sessions back, we killed our first ARC BBEG and raided his place. My character was in one room by himself and took a spell scroll without telling anyone about it. The IRL players obviously knew, even though he couldn't read it, because I assumed it was a wizard spell scroll and he was a warlock. Also this, taking things without telling other people, isn't new in our party. Multiple members have done it multiple times, no one ever had any issues with it, and it seemed like the thing that our characters would actually do. Well, this session we had a lot of combat, and one of my friend's characters didn't make it. The combat was hard, but if we had slightly better rolls or timing, we could have survived it. We still would have been really beaten up, but at least alive. Which didn't happen, but our DM said something about how it didn't have to be that way, and that's basically karma. So after the combat ended, we begged him to tell us what he meant, and he gave us a minute to figure it out, after which he would tell us what we could have done if we didn't figure it out ourselves, in which case we would be allowed to do it. So everyone obviously panicked, including me, and started looking through our notes. I was pretty sure that I didn't have anything, and actually through a bit of metagaming, I knew that one of the other players also had seen the spell scroll and also couldn't read it. So I didn't really focus on it. Well, you probably could have guessed that the DM told us the spell was Revivify, hence the 1-minute timer. And our fourth, not really sure how, 2nd level cleric could have casted it. He also told us that the party is a family, so we shouldn't lie to each other and that being an edgelord never works out. After that, I felt horrible. I never wanted my friend's character to die, and I actually cried a bit even before I knew that it was basically my fault. And now I don't know what I should do. Am I the asshole?
Honestly, first impression, I'll have to think about this a little bit more. First impression, the DM kind of comes off like one.
I was thinking that too. Like, I get that taking things for yourself and not telling the party isn't the best thing to do, but since he says they all do it and it's never been a problem, sometimes that's just the group that you have. Like, if you're playing a group that consists of 3 rogues and 2 outcast spellcasters, they're probably gonna be looking out for themselves and taking things that nobody else notices. That does happen in games.
Yeah, and it's very common, especially if session 0 or just the precedent has been set before that, hey, you can snag stuff for yourself. I'm going to help you keep secrets. There'll be fun reveals later in the story. It seems like the DM, to a certain extent, went along with it, because obviously it seems like the players never metagamed, and they did themselves, so they didn't really mind that he took this random scroll. And the DM's almost doing like a gotcha to make them feel guilty that, oh, this scroll you stole this one time, after like 5 other scrolls have been stolen over the course of the campaign. This was the one that single-handedly killed your party member. So I'm kind of wondering if like the DM was sick of it and just wasn't communicating it well, so then he created this scenario.
Yeah, and again, it just kind of feels like the DM, like you said, is making the situation happen. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the scroll wasn't even revivified to begin with, because that's the kind of thing that the DM at that point could nudge like, oh, by the way, you know, it doesn't look like wizard runes. It looks like it's written with like celestial, or it's got these holy symbols on it to indicate that it should go to the cleric. A scroll of revivify is a pretty big deal to just let that sit for several sessions in just one person's bag and they can't use it. So I feel like this person isn't doing anything wrong, assuming that everyone is truly okay with the just pocketing something small every now and then. But the DM's kind of putting them on the spot and making them take the blame for the dead party member. And in reality, they had nothing to do with the party member's death.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, can the party learn a lesson about being stingy? Sure. Are they really being stingy if they never knew in the first place they had the tools? I don't know. Like you said, I don't really know if that makes sense as a punishment and a learning lesson that the player had to go through.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many ways to get around the situation. There's so many things, even to just nudge the person. I mean, I do it all the time in my games. I don't run people's characters for them, but if they're scrambling around trying to find what the thing is that they could have done, then I could be like, hey, Just by the way, as you're thinking about this, your character has this flashback to picking the scroll up. Like, it would be as simple as that, and that would still teach them the lesson of, hey, let's not keep this kind of thing secret anymore because it almost got someone killed.
And there's actually a trick I've done before. I know it's not really rules as written, but let's say this character is, near the party, and in the inventory the scroll's there. You could almost have the scroll have like a soft glow to indicate that it's eligible to be used in this scenario. I've done it for other things in the past, and maybe it's forcing the narrative a little too much, but people have railroaded for way worse things, so it's one of those things where if his pack has a soft glow and he opens it up, it's like, oh, it's the scroll, it's glowing, why? And then another party member looks and identifies it. I think that's almost a cool narrative moment, really.
And it doesn't hurt anything either. The scroll's still getting used. I mean, it's resources. If it did actually have Revivify to begin with, he definitely intended for it to be used in a situation like this. And again, I know it comes back to the person took something specifically for themselves and the party didn't know, but instead they try and shift the blame onto this one person and say that the party's a family, you don't lie to each other, being an edgelord never works out. And it's like, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from, but this is D&D. The people lie, people are edgelords, it happens, and we shouldn't just beat someone down and gaslight them because they didn't know what a scroll did.
Yeah, and I just want to point out at the end as a quick shout out, I definitely don't think he's the asshole. And at no point in this post does any other player blame him. It's just the DM giving him a hard time. Not even the person who died.
Yeah, they don't even say that the person who died is like, well, damn it, dude, you could have saved me. It's not like that at all. So the person, I don't think they're the asshole. But the DM, I think the DM's maybe a little bit of an asshole. And that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you've not done so already, and don't forget to go check out the video we did on Loot Goblin's channel with a similar topic. You can do that by clicking the link in the description or the card that's popping up in the top right corner of the video right now.
Thanks for having me stop by. It was really fun reading these stories. I'm gonna have to come by soon to read some more.
Anyway, thank you guys again, and I'll see all of you wonderful people in the next video.